Today, we're going to be talking about my top 5 crankbaits for 2020. That is what I'm going to title this video. I think it's going to help get more views. And, I mean, to be completely honest, 4 of these crankbaits are my all-time favorites. They're the ones I'm going to use, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to catch fish with all 4 of them. Now, the 5th one is one that I picked up because I saw it at the store, and I said, well, hey, I kind of got to try it. So we're going to go ahead and start with the one that I haven't caught anything on, and that is going to be, I think it's called the Recon. It's the Googan crankbait. Pretty sure it's the Recon. Look at it there again. The color is the native shad. And one thing I've noticed about this deeper diving crankbait is you'll notice when you compare it to like a 5XD, see how big the bill is on a 5XD? Well, look at that Recon. 5XD will go to 15 feet. On the package of a Recon, it says 8 to 12 feet. So if you guys have caught any fish on the Recon, you like it, whatever, leave me a comment in the section below. But anyway, in the native shad color, that is something I'm going to be trying. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump around a little bit. I'd say my all-time favorite deep diving crankbait, even though I would consider this a mid to deep diving crankbait, just not like a 20 to 25 foot deep diving crankbait, if that makes any sense. The 5XD by Strike King, this will go to 15 feet. I do believe that is what it is rated for. And the bait is, I believe it's a 5/8 in size. This is the sexy Blueback Herring. And you will see that that has been bit and chewed up by pike and other fish. This right here, this is like my all-time favorite crankbait, especially for largemouth and smallmouth bass. I mean, this crankbait right here, especially in this color, I like for smallmouth bass more than anything. And I feel like I would catch more smallies with this bait than I would any others, even though I've caught largemouth, pike, and just a lot of fish on this crankbait. But anyway, 5XD, one of my all-time favorite baits ever. Okay, so moving on, speaking of the smallies. Now, I originally was going to tell you guys that this is the Normandy DD14, but it is not. This is the Norman, I believe, because if you look at the bill, this is the DD14, okay? Now, this crankbait, just because of the success that I've had with it, and I have caught fish on this one. Like I said, I've caught fish with all of these except for the Googan one. I would use this one for smallmouth. Now, this DD14, I do believe, it's going to go 15 or 16 feet. And if you guys, too, look, before I forget, you'll notice that the hooks and the Strike King kind of rusted out. I didn't change the hooks on these. I only lost, I think, 1 fish on these total. But anyway, just to kind of jump around, on all of these crankbaits, I'm going to use fluorocarbon. Now, give me 1 second. I got to go grab the stuff. My favorite fluorocarbon to crankbait with is by Sonline. It is the FC Snapper, but you don't have to use Sonline. You can use Seagar, any other brand you want. I just like the Sniper, and I do also like the Super. Now, that fluorocarbon that I'm going to crankbait with, I'm going to put it on a casting reel. You can use a 6 or a 7 gear ratio. I mean, it's up to you. It's your preference. But this 6 gear ratio, I do believe, is 26 inches per turn. This is the Curado K151, which is the left-hand retrieve. And you can do a 7 gear, which is like a 31 inches per turn, or you could do an SLX, like you guys saw at the beginning, which is, it's a 7 gear, but it's only 29 inches per turn. But anyway, casting reel, fluorocarbon, that is how I like to crankbait. So moving on to the next one, you do have a discontinued Rapala. This is the CRR10, which is the, I do believe, the Clackin Crank. And if you look on the bill, it does say it goes 9 to 10 feet, and you will see that I still do have the line connected to it. If you look closely at the bait, you will see that it is not completely destroyed, but it is just absolutely chewed up. This is, I mean, a bait that I would use for largemouth and smallmouth, but in my experience, I have caught more largemouth and pike on this bait than anything. This, and like I said, the 5XD, both of those are chewed up pretty good. And the Norman, that's dinged up a little bit. You can't really see because of the paint, but again, this chartreuse with the black mark, and then the eye on the bait. That is a great style of crankbait, and I was kind of bummed when I found out these baits are discontinued. You can still find them online, and I still do have some friends who have these, But, I mean, I know this crankbait was replaced, but it's kind of a bummer to have a crankbait that was so good to be replaced. But anyway, moving on to the last one, we're going to talk about the Rapala DT6. Focus. There we go. We're going to talk about this crankbait right here. And then we're going to wrap this up and talk about some other cool things to go with it. Like I said, that is the Rapala DT6, and it is in the blaze color. Check that out. Now, a cool thing that you'll notice about this crankbait, it has a little bit of a rattle, but it's silent compared to some of the others. Now, I like this for largemouth and smallmouth. It has a really tight wobble. I fish a lot of these crankbaits year-round, especially if I'm fishing the Great Lakes and like Lake St. Clair, Lake Michigan, all that stuff. But this, especially because of the sound, the color, and just the way it moves in the water, I like this in the spring. The colder the water, the better I do with this bait. Now, does that mean that you're going to have the same effect or the same thing with this bait? No, but like I said, hear that? Now let's go backwards, in backwards order to the Rapala. There we go. Normandy DD14. 5XD. That's a really good rattle. And Googan Recon. All of the sounds, well, I like all of the sounds of these crankbaits, but I mean, honestly, my favorite, right there, that 5XD and that Rapala, those are my favorites. Rapala and Strike King, those are just like amazing baits altogether, but the Rapala and the Strike King crankbaits, those are my favorites. I mean, the Googan one is cool, and Focus. The Googan one is cool, and Norman is an amazing company. It's an amazing classic. I love it. But like the Strike King and the Rapala, that's really where I'm at. Now, another cool thing too, some more random stuff about these baits is, like I said about fishing that Rapala in the spring, a 5XD is a bait that I will fish year-round, especially on the Great Lakes. Because people think that when the water temperature, you know, gets into the 70s, they don't fish a lot of crankbaits. Not true. If you're fishing for smallmouth, especially on the Great Lakes and deeper, clear water, you can catch them year-round on this. I mean, on this and on this Norman. Now, another thing, too, I've noticed that I think will help you guys with the fluorocarbon and also monofilament when I use it with crankbaits is the higher the diameter that you go, the higher it will keep the bait in the water column. The smaller the diameter you go, the lower in the water column it will go. So if I use 10-pound test fluorocarbon, it is going to get that 5XD to at least 15 feet. But I know with 10-pound test fluorocarbon, it's going to get it deeper, especially on a medium moderate rod or a medium heavy moderate rod, depending on the rod power, action, specification, and brand. It's going to get that deeper than 15 feet. Sometimes I want it deeper, sometimes I want it more shallow. But anyway, like I said, let me know about the Googan crankbait. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just kind of having fun with it. And then the 6 gear ratio, do you need it to crankbait? Nope. Is it necessary? Nope. You can do whatever you want. But something with 23 or 26 inches per turn, some fluorocarbon, I do think that's going to help you. Fluorocarbon does have stretch, so does monofilament. Sometimes I want a lot of stretch, sometimes I want a little stretch, but I don't ever really use braid with a crankbait because that's just not how I like to fish them. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I cannot wait to hear from you in the comments about these baits, and I will see you guys next time. There we go. First fish of the day. A decent bass from the dock.